Hey guys, Clarrisani here. I wasn't planning on doing this video the way that I'm doing it, but something has come up. It's kind of unbelievable. Basically, what's been going on is that David Smalley, if you don't know who he is, he's a prominent atheist in the atheist community, has been having a bit of trouble with his podcasts. Basically, he's got too many of them, and he's having trouble financing them. Now, one of the problems that he's had is his questionable response to a few things that have been going on. His questionable response to the allegations against Krauss, his response to MIFCON, and all sorts of things, you know. I used to listen to Dogma Debate. I used to listen to every episode. It was one of those staple programs that I'd listen to along with I listened to Feminists Milwaukee. I listened to Thinking Atheist. I listened to I can't think of the other ones. The one with Matt Delahunty. I listened to all of them. They were staples for me. I'm sorry about the jitter on the camera. But one by one, the mighty have fallen. Memphis Milwaukee, of course, was the first one to go, first one to delete after their poor choices in... I mean, I wouldn't have minded if they'd had maybe one controversial speaker, you know, one well, not controversial, questionable speaker. But when you stack the deck like they did, that's when it becomes a problem. So they went. Thinking Atheist went next because he lost the plot. Seth Andrews, he lost the plot. Matt Delahunty's show just recently went. I didn't listen to that one as much anyway. But Dogma Debate I stopped listening to after the falling out between David Smalley and Aaron Ra. Because I adore Aaron Ra. I think he's one of the smartest, most intellectual guys in the whole movement. And he's not atheism plus. I mean, to me, atheism plus is just atheism plus all the bullshit that used to come with religion without the religion, you know? You know, your sexism, your bigotry, all that. And even the cult following. Anyway, David Smalley's response to it all was questionable. Anyway, he recently put up a post saying that he was having financial problems, and a lot of people like me commented on the fact that it was because his content was getting questionable. I haven't listened to a while because all he does nowadays is just talk to conservatives, and that's fine, except all he does is talk to conservatives. It's not a discussion between like-minded people anymore. There were people that I've followed a lot of the people that used to appear on his show. I followed them onto their own shows. But anyway, a few people got stuck into him, and there were more allegations made by his former staff, saying that no, he never paid them, so why is he saying he needs money for his people who he pays? Anyway, so these allegations were made, and there were people trying to get his podcast cancelled. I don't support getting shows cancelled. I think these people should be allowed to have their voice. So I'm not on board with people doing that and people that were actually attacking him. But there was constructive criticism. There was things that were said that he could have taken on board. But that's not what he's done. His response to all of this has been attacks on SJWs, the social justice warriors, which they've been even asked if there are, is the term slanderous or not? I personally don't think it is. It's like feminist is used now to slander people. I don't use it as a slandered term. If I get accused of being an SJW, I don't mind saying I fight for social justice. What's wrong with fighting for justice? But yeah, there are bad people in the group. But Smalley's response to all of this, to claims that he's part of one of the people that are supporting the alt-right and that he's connected with all these alt-right people, his response is to go on Sargon of Akkad's live stream. You just confirmed it, mate. You've just confirmed everything that people are saying about you. If you'd gone on like Aaron Ra, or one of these people that aren't connected with any of his slot, that's one thing. But Sargon of Akkad, one of the most... He is the stepping stone into the alt-right. Even Richard Spencer says he's a wonderful person. When Richard Spencer says you're a good person, you're not a good person. So yeah, Smalley, I don't know what you're doing, but I really don't think you're thinking about it. Anyway, I'm about 30 minutes into the discussion so far. I will put any updates, any comments I've got for them. I mean, first and foremost, I've got to point out they've described themselves both as classical liberal. Reminder, classical liberal is a fancy way of saying conservative, right-wing. If you're saying you're classical liberal, you're right-wing. And the fact that Sargon describes himself as a socialist is hilarious. You're no socialist, Sargon. You're really not. The only thing you want to socialise is hatred. Please. And the fact that Sargon also seems to think he's a humanist, no. Mate. Humanists don't go on the rampages and attacks that you do against women and Muslims. And yeah, alright, I'm just going to keep watching this, and anything else that I come across that I've got to comment on, I'm going to just add bits onto this video. So, oh boy, it's 2 hours and 30 minutes long, so here we go. Okay, I'm a little bit further in now, and they're discussing the far left, as if it's an organised thing, and their culture war on the media, and the plans they were plotting to prop up Obama and things like that through journalists, or whatever it is. But it's very much self-projection. I would happily point out that what a few journalists are saying is different to what actual companies were saying, because the majority of America's media is actually right-wing. I mean, just look right now at what are they called now? I can't think what they're called, but the company that's just put out all those emails for their newsreaders to read. Sinclair, that's right, Sinclair Publishing. If you want to talk about a culture war, really, because if there's a culture war, it's basically the right, the hard right, up against the people who want to diversify culture, multiculturalism, that want humanism. Anyone's fighting a culture war, it's the equality side versus the right. I mean, even members of the right are even looking at what's going on in the Republican Party and saying, you guys are nuts. I mean, look at how many are jumping ship. Even Paul Ryan has jumped ship now. But yeah, there's no culture war. If there is one, it is coming from the right, trying to maintain the order, you know. And just because a few journalists were talking about labelling people racist, they weren't plotting to label people racist. The people that they were talking about as being racist actually are racist. So it's a bit different from slandering someone and just stating fact. And you're not going to get away with it. Just because a journalists say that doesn't mean it gets published, because they don't make the final decision what gets published, the actual company does. Okay, so another thing that has just happened in this little diatribe of theirs is that Sargon's talking about MLK, Martin Luther King, and how he never launched personal attacks. Well, yes, he did. He did call out people. Even in his I Have a Dream speech. This is actually from his speech. I quote. Right. He says, I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, where it's vicious racists with its governor having his lips dripping with the words imposition and nullification. One day right here in Alabama, there in Alabama, little black girls and black boys will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. That right there is a personal attack against the governor of the time, which was, I think it was Wallace, yeah, George Wallace, yeah. That was a personal attack, Sargon. He also called the people particularly the people in Alabama, racist. He wasn't afraid of pointing out facts. And it's also a bit of a interesting that you, of all people, for MLK, I'm pretty sure MLK would have looked at you and considered you a useful idiot of the right. And now I've got a cat again. Hello, cat. Sasha says hello. Don't you, Sasha? You say hello. Okay, Sargon, I'm just going to call you out on some of your bullshit here. You just made a comment about SJWs seem to always have mental health issues and like autism or depression. Now, a lot of people have depression, and autistic people are switched on more. They really are. They find life a bit harder. Some of them, it's a bit harder to function in society. I mean, I know well because they think I have it. I haven't been officially diagnosed, but I have. My daughter does have it. It is in my family. And I have actually been diagnosed with depression. I mean, I have PTSD. I have been targeted. I have actually been victimized. I mean, that's why I've got PTSD. I was attacked physically. Which is why I'm disabled, because I was attacked physically. But the thing is, that's not something to hold against these people. That just means that they've seen shit. They've done shit. They've had shit happen to them. That's not a derogatory thing. And the fact that you dared to think to bring this up makes me think that you look down on people that have these things. Because you're making clear you don't like SJWs, and the fact that you made that connection really doesn't look good for you, mate. Shove it where it fits best. That's all I can say to your comment about that. Shove it where it fits best. And yes, I still have a cat photobomb back here bombing my video. Sargon just described himself as progressive. You can't make this shit up. You can't. Okay, so Sargon and Smalley just had a conversation about definitions of terms and how they've changed and how feminism has become a bad thing, and they at least, well, Smalley admitted that the hard right people, well, not hard right, the there are extremists who aren't feminists, they're misandrists. I didn't use that term, but there were a couple of things that were said. For example, they were talking about Thunderfoot and all these, and how they aren't anti-race, or they're not racist, even though these people have said and done things which are explicitly anti-Arab, including you, Sargon, you've done it. But they've also, he said he's never done anything or said anything nasty about certain women, including Anita Sarkeesian. He says, oh, I've trolled her, but I never said anything nasty. Dude, there's a line. You went past it. You were harassing her. It's like he's got selective memory, Sargon has. It's deliberate selective memory. And it's... Look, I have to agree with you guys. If you're going to accuse someone of being something, you've got to come prepared. If you're going to say somebody's anti-feminist, misogynist, you have to give examples. Like, I can agree with that. But, Sargon, you haven't got a leg to stand on that, because you've made it clear where you stand. You are anti-feminist. And I just like how you guys are saying that, oh, we're the left and the others must be far left, extreme left. You guys aren't left. You're really not left. You're really not. And Sargon, if you're actually coming up as centrist left on those political compasses, that means you're lying. What you say on your channel, you're lying to the people. Either, unless you're lying here and you're not coming up as centre left. Seriously. Because, yeah, your channel is not centre left. If anything, it is centre to mid right. Hey guys, I'm an hour and 10 minutes in now to the video, and I do have a cat right here. Hello, Sasha. They're going on at the minute about how entitled millennials are because they want living wages. They're saying, going on about how they're whinging because they get paid $10 an hour, and that there's student loan debt and all this sort of thing. Now, let me just make one thing clear. Yes, they are whinging, because student loan debt in America is ridiculous. It's something like 110% interest rate. There's this one person who had a student loan debt of $25,000, have paid back 34 and still owe 45 grand, even though they've met all their payments. And $10 an hour is not a living wage. Just to compare it here in Australia, $10 an hour is not the minimum wage here in Australia. The minimum wage here in Australia, I think, is something like $18. America is quite low in the minimum wage, and it's not enough to pay your food on the table and put rent. That's why you get these people who work full-time jobs, 30, 40 hours a week, and even some of them work 2 or 3 jobs. Even the teachers work 2 to 3 jobs and still can't pay the rent. That is a legitimate concern, particularly when you've realised that, the generation before them, the baby boomers, didn't have student debt. It was paid for. Their wage was up with their productivity. It didn't start flatlining until Reaganomics happened and the neoconservative movement happened. But yeah, they whinging about how entitled these people are. It's not so much entitled, more than wanting what they've rightfully earned and saying, these people are whingy if you put their drinks up 40 cents. Well, they won't have to whinge. They're not whinging. People say if you've got to pay 40 cents just so someone can earn $18 an hour, well, people actually have the money to pay for it. Then they actually will have the money to buy those drinks. But the problem isn't so much putting the cost of drinks up, but knowing that these companies, it's all about the shareholders. So they're raking in billions and billions of dollars. And these tax cuts, they're taking the money from the tax cuts for share buybacks. So they're investing billions of dollars into themselves, into shares, and into paying off their CEOs and their shareholders. But the people who are actually doing the work are getting peanuts, basically. That's the problem. That they're just redistributing the wealth basically to the top. Class warfare with the poor losing. That's why people are whinging. This is the millennials, my generation, are the first generation since, I think, the war times where they've been worse off than a generation before them. Every generation has been better off than a generation before until the millennials. We're worse off. And that is a reflection of the time, and it's been the boomers that have done it to us. It's not the problem isn't the millennials, the problem is the boomers. Just pointing that out. So I'm an hour 40 minutes in now, and got to go pick my daughter up in a minute from a kinder. What can I say at the moment is that we've just had David Smalley's story about the supposed assault, the Me Too movement. I'm actually inclined to believe his side of things. We can't know either way, of course, because we weren't there. But I am more inclined to believe his side of things because it just doesn't sound like him. I can't know for sure. I don't know him personally. And I do remember those podcasts. I have listened to those early ones. And Daniel is a bit funny. But also I've got to say the whole Christy Winters rant. It's glorious. General Winters. I'm going to be calling her that from now on. General Christy Winters. General Christy Winters. Okay. My cat's living in my computer right now. But yeah, it's amazing how they've just got this huge. I think Kevin Logan's going to have to start putting bits into his videos. That inevitable bit about Christy Winters. They talk more about her now than they do Lacey Green and even Anita Sarkeesian. So yeah, Kevin, new section for your video. The inevitable bit of Christy Winters. Okay, so they've just now made the argument that male feminists basically make up a majority of sexual assaulters. That they feminists so that it could basically get at the women and assault them, and that they're all convicted. Not mentioning, of course, all the anti-feminists like Rush V and the list goes on. Selective bit, just a little bit. Just to point out, if you're going to assault someone, that sexual assault is usually done as a power trip, and it usually means you're looking down on someone. So yeah, anti-feminists. I'm not saying that male feminists don't assault women. I'm not saying that women don't assault men. I'm just saying that misogynists are far more likely because they think they are superior and usually believe that women are their property and can do what they want. Just pointing that little fact out, guys. Well, just taking a brief break. I had to go pick my daughter up from kinder. And in the walk over there, I was thinking about why I stopped listening to Dogma Debate. And it occurred to me that the reason I stopped listening was because not so much it was the content, but it was because the content was becoming so repetitive. I mean, the fallout with Aaron Ra was one of the first things that made me not listen as much. But it's come to the point now on Dogma Debate where every week he's got a Christian apologist, a Christian pastor, former Christian pastor, And I know it's Dogma Debate, but it's like it's the same thing every episode. And it just gets to a point where you can only hear something. It might be different people, but it's always the same arguments. And the thing I used to like about Dogma Debate was it was a mix of things. I mean, you'd have mythicism, you had your my daughter's coming. You had evolution, science, all these different things. Don't you touch that kid. But now it's just the same thing over and over. The other thing I was thinking about was how they tried to make the distinction between social justice, between Smalley and Sargon, was the distinction between social justice warriors and social justice advocates. And they seem to say advocates is a good thing, warriors are a bad thing. Well, in my eyes, an advocate is someone who wants something, whereas a warrior is someone who goes out and gets it. It's like saying during the French Revolution, this person here advocates for an overthrow of the French, a French royal family. That doesn't get rid of the royal French family. It was the warriors that went out and overdid the revolution. It's like if the people in America had advocated for an independent country from the British Empire. That doesn't get you an independent country. You have to have a revolution. You have to have warriors. Warriors are people that go out there and get things. MLK was a warrior. He was a social justice warrior. He was prepared to go out and get it, not just advocate for it. Go out and get it. So that is the distinction for me. So a social justice warrior is someone that gets things done, which is why there is such a large movement to try and slander these people, because they're afraid of these warriors. They're afraid of the fact they're going to get the change. And it is happening. We've got gay marriage, and they're just scared of the change. So yeah, that's the distinction for me. And that's why they're trying so hard to slander the SJWs. Anyway, back to watching. So right now, they're trying to take the moral high ground, saying that the left are the ones that do the doxing. They use guilt, they use shame, or whatever they say. They have no guilt, they only have shame. And these are from the same people that say that the people on the left, you have to have white guilt or you're racist. These are the same people that say that we have white guilt, therefore if we don't have it, we're racist. So it's either one way or the other, guys. And all the tactics they're talking about, the doxing and everything, is not mutually exclusive to the left or the right. It's not. It's stuff I've seen on both sides, and honestly, I wish neither side would do it. I mean, do what it's showing, put the show on. Seriously, I wish that's what Weekly Flags recap used to be, that Agent of Doubt used to do. Was both sides flagging, false flagging, and it's a joke. It needs to stop. But it's not a mutually exclusive left or right thing, and he's blaming progressives here when it's just a tiny minority, and there are some people in these comments that Smalley's reading out that are a problem. But I have got inboxes full of death threats and rape threats and threats of physical violence, all because I have stood up for people. I have stood up for the African Americans in my community, for example. Not African Americans, the African refugees. You know what I mean. They're actually African Americans here, but yeah, the African refugees here in my community. Because there are people here that want to deport all of them, just because one or two of them have committed crimes, even though percentage-wise they only make up a tiny portion of the criminals. And it's about engagement. It's about the fact that these people don't feel at home here. They're treated like outsiders. They're treated like garbage, and then they become what they are treated. And because I advocate for getting these kids involved, getting these people involved, and believe in rehabilitation over punishment, because it's shown to work, I've had people say that they hope I get gang raped, that someone breaks into my house and kills my family. And these are comments coming from white supremacists in my own local community, not online community, my actual physical community, people who could well be my next door neighbours. And yeah, so you can take your moral high ground and shove it, Smalley and Sargon. You can shove it, because it's something that we've been experiencing on the left since the internet began, and longer. You don't see it because you get a couple of things. You get maybe a letter to your person, you get 5 or 6 comments and you're outraged about them. No, you're crying about SJWs. When we've been dogpiled, we've been false flagged, we've been attacked. But half the time we don't even say a thing, because that's life. That's the internet. The internet is one big piling shit, you know? It's just, that's the reality of it. So yeah, you're playing victim. You are playing victim. And some of the comments sent against you were bad, and I object to them. I don't support those people. But you don't get to label all progressives like that. You don't get to label SJWs as that. You don't get to whinge and whine about the left and then claim you are the left. No. It's just not how it works. It's really not. So Sargon's currently making the claim that the right wing won't censor him. That's why he's going to have a conversation with the right, whereas the left will censor him, and that people like Alex Jones will let him talk, but the left don't want to have the conversation, and that he doesn't go after the people on the right because they're not as bad as the ones on the left. Well, Sargon, I'm going to call you bullshit on this. Alex Jones thinks you're wonderful. If Alex Jones thinks you're wonderful, you're not a good person. If Richard Spencer thinks you're a good person, you're not a good person, and you're sure as hell are not left-wing. The reason the left will call you is because they deal with truth and facts. The right don't. To the right, you're a useful idiot. Well, you're useful to them. You claim you're a left, but you support all of their causes. You're handy. It's like the women of the alt-right. They're useful idiots. They stand for a group that thinks that they shouldn't have a voice. It's amazing that these women get up and they have all these channels, but they stand with a group that want to take away their voice and their rights. It's like Herman Cain in the Republican Party. He is the token black guy, the useful black guy. He gets out there and he will slam and slander other black people because he is one himself, and it seems to add legitimacy to them. But no, the reason the right will let you talk is because you're saying everything they want you to say. Whereas on the left, we're going to call you out on your bullshit. If you say something ridiculous, we're going to tell you, you said something ridiculous. If you say something wrong, we're going to correct you with the actual facts. So yeah, don't play, oh, the left's about censorship where the right lets us talk. I mean, seriously, come on. Really? We gotta go there? No.